everyone. Before we begin, it is our practice to begin with a brief prayer led by Mr. Thompson, and we invite all that wish to join.
Father, we're grateful for a season which we're reminded to give of ourselves as the model that you gave us. And so we pray for those who are in need, and that as a community we would find unique ways of helping meet those needs. Thank you for time off coming up for teachers and staff and students, and pray for our period of refreshment. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, well, first we begin with any public comments on items that are on the agenda. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on items on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, then we'll move forward to board comments. First, Music Council.
We did not meet last month.
All right. Athletic Council.
We have met.
Legislative, we don't have anything. Superintendent Strategic Task Force Council.
We are in the finalizing phase of coming back with Strategic Plan 2.0, which will be available in January after the two public meetings and meeting with everybody. And I think we have some really good ideas. Probably the one significant change is on the leadership domain. We've talked a lot about collaboration and moving forward with that as one of our guiding principles, and the leadership will be embedded underneath that, because it really is about partnerships and working together. So that's going to be one of the main things that you'll see. And we'll have some other attributes that we're going to highlight, but the guiding principles will be remaining.
Okay, great. Thank you. Communications Committee?
We did meet. Finally, we did meet. We talked about hiring a full-time communications person, and just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to look at benchmarks that are provided by the National Public Relations Association, just to make sure they're in line with our strategic plan. And those benchmarks, we'll use those to measure the success and the progress of the new communications commission. I think you're going to talk about that a little bit more later.
Yeah, in the discussion session, we're going to talk about that.
All right, good. Thank you. Collective bargaining.
I do have a couple things on that. Just
Okay.
Moving ahead, we will be beginning conversations on insurance. Talked with Mr. Wallace and Mr. Bailey, and there's some discussion last year, so we're going to partner with Doug Johnson to have a real examination of insurance opportunities. That's going to be probably in February. And also the extracurricular schedule for ECAs. We're going to have Mr. Regas and Mr. Wallace has put together some people as well, just to review that, to make sure that we're kind of in line with our peer group and moving forward. So those will be two of the big things. Anything else we've been talking about informal? Thank you.
All right, good. Central 9 of note is the director is retiring at the end of this school year, and they're posting the new director position. So we'll know more in the spring. One other thing I just wanted to comment on: before every Central 9 board meeting, there's a brief presentation on different programs, and this one was the horticulture program by our teacher, Joe Ramey, who's been there 28 years. And an interesting thing they're doing is they're now offering a landscape technician certificate through Ivy Tech, 18 credit hours. And then the student with this 18-hour certificate would be treated in the industry as if they had an associate degree. And they could expect to enter with a pay of $12 to $15 an hour plus full benefits, and that they are placing 50 to 60% of their students in internships and upon graduation final positions. So that is just amazing out of our horticulture program. And so I wanted to comment on that and let parents know that if their kids are interested in that line of work, that is a very affordable way to earn skill while still in high school. Let's see, the next we've got RDC.
Nothing really new to report. We meet tomorrow morning.
Very good.
I would like to publicly acknowledge, I believe Rob Henderson will be going off as he's taken a position with the county council. And this will be his last meeting. And since we won't meet again before that, just want to thank him publicly for what he has done to help create partnerships and collaboration between the RDC and Franklin Community Schools.
Great. Thank you. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
It's been moved for approval. Any questions or comments about the consent agenda? I would note that in the consent agenda is the renewal of Roger Young's contract, and certainly Roger has been an important part of this board's work, and it's an opportunity to say thank you as well. So all those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by a sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. That brings us to action items, GMH. Dr. Clendenny.
Well, it's with great pleasure that I recommend that we join a partnership with Johnson Memorial Health for nursing services in our district. If you recall, last summer, we had a one-page memorandum of understanding where we would work on this. And after a couple months of Mr. Young and Mr. Deppie's work, we're here tonight. Mr. Hayden, the CEO of Johnson Memorial Health, is here. And I would move that we accept this agreement. It's a great partnership with us. It's a 5-year with renewal options for both of us at the end of that 5 years. And we'll be retaining all of our nurses, plus we'll be receiving some additional help here at the high school and at Union Elementary. In addition, just to note, Amanda Martin, the coordinator of health services for Franklin Schools, will remain with our school district, and she will serve as the main contact between Johnson Memorial Health and Franklin Schools from our perspective. And I think Rick Keister serves as the main contact person for Johnson Memorial Health. And I would note that Mr. Hayden is in attendance. Would you like to say anything, Larry?
Well, we're excited. You know, this was presented in the summer, and at that time, we didn't know how soon we get the contract out, but it's done. Jess worked very hard. Jamie worked very hard. I really appreciate working with these two guys. They're easy to work with, so it's a joy to think we're going to be able to evolve our relationship with the schools. And this is not the end. Just I left a meeting with our ER director, Mike Pozak. He wants to give back as much as he can to Franklin, and he was just talking about trying to create a boot camp for Franklin High School students. Thank you. I'm not going to start over though. Dr. Pozak would just talk to me about creating a boot camp for the students at Franklin High School, trying to allow them over the summertime to come in and understand more what it means to be in the healthcare profession. So we do have a teen volunteer program. Many of your students come to that, but this will be on steroids, so to speak, related to the fact that they'll get exposed to the ER situation. So we're going to target your students that want a health career, and hopefully this will take off. But nonetheless, with the school nurse program, very excited that we're able to move in this direction. And again, it can't overemphasize enough what it's been to work with both these gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mrs. Martin?
Hello? Am I good? From health services standpoint, we're just as excited. This is a great opportunity for our students. We are seeing a higher level of need in our clinic, so partnering with the hospital is going to bring some of that advanced training back to the school level. So we're super excited. The nurses are just as excited, and this is a great opportunity for our students and staff. So we're looking forward to it.
And of note, this also does incorporate athletic training opportunities that have already been going on for several years The one thing we did put in the contract that you'll note is that Mr. Regas will serve as the contact, the main contact for the athletic department, and he'll continue to work with Rick on that as well. So we will have two people as point persons for us, but we're looking forward to that and just reiterate, great partnership. It's a great opportunity both for our students, but also for our community. This is a very positive step.
Move for approval.
All right, it's been moved for approval. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the GEO bond. Mr. Young.
Thank you. I will begin, but look to some others for some assistance. As you all know, because you've been discussing this for several months, there are a number of significant capital repairs that need to be made to some of our buildings. We do not have available funds to make those much-needed repairs. So it is proposed that the school corporation issue in its own name debt not to exceed $2 million. That would be issued in the form of a bond, commonly known as a general obligation bond. This is a direct obligation of the school corporation. It is not a lease financing with the building corporation, which you might be familiar with. In order to commence that process, a number of actions need to be taken this evening and on into the next 2 or 3 months. Briefly, I believe it will be Dr. Clendending will present to you the proposed uses for the funds to be borrowed, and we will call those the project. Also, he'll be letting you know the expected costs. If the board chooses to go forward to make these repairs and to borrow the money to do that, then the board will need to have a brief hearing asking if there's any public comment on the proposed project or the proposed borrowing. After receiving that comment, the board would adopt the project resolution, which simply is a determination by the board to go forward and complete the projects, which will be outlined to you. Next, the board will adopt a preliminary bond resolution. That is a resolution determining or resolving to issue bonds not to exceed $2 million. And will also adopt what's called a reimbursement resolution. That resolution resolves that the school corporation will reimburse itself from the bond proceeds any money the school corporation may have spent on the project which has been approved. If those motions pass, then there will be some other matters that will be taken up at the January meeting. Between now and January, there'll be a notice of additional appropriation hearing published in the Daily Journal. That is necessary in order to appropriate the bond proceeds, because those bond proceeds weren't here last year during your budget process where you appropriated all of your other revenues in your 2016 budget. So those new monies have to be appropriated. There'll be a notice in the paper saying that there'll be a hearing on the additional appropriation on January 11, 2016, your next regular board meeting. There'll also be a notice published in the newspaper that the board has determined to proceed with the project and to issue bonds to finance the project. That notice of determination will trigger a brief period of where any taxpayer can remonstrate against the issuance of the bonds. At your January 11 hearing, then you would be holding a hearing on the additional appropriation. You would adopt the appropriation resolution, and by then your financial advisor would have worked out the details on the financing, and you would adopt a final bond resolution. The bonds will be sold by competitive bid. They will not be sold by private sale, although your financial advisor always, in my opinion, negotiates sales on very favorable terms. However, the law requires that these bonds be sold at public sale, public bid. So we'll be, assuming we go forward with this, we'll be receiving bids for those bonds sometime in March. The successful bidder is the one that bids the lowest rate of interest, the one you have to pay the least money to borrow money from. That is how the successful bidder will be determined. And if all goes well, we anticipate a bond sale in March with the receipt of funds at the end of March, allowing your maintenance folks and your third-party contractors to move forward with these projects just as soon as the weather clears and the school schedule allows. That's it. So at this point, I would ask someone to present in general what projects need to be done with the money that would be borrowed.
Last month, Mr. Doty was before us, and I'm not sure why it's not highlighted the project list, but we did do a proposed project for us at Union Elementary. They received the majority of the $2 million, and that would be for work on exterior as well as some work on the inside. If you recall, during our visit on December 4th, Mr. Doty did highlight the inside need and discuss what would take place on the outside. In addition, we're looking at security cameras for buses, and that would be an estimate of $120,000. Playground equipment at Needham, Webb, and Northwood for $30,000 respectively. A cooling tower at Creekside Elementary, $45,000. Regroute lap pool, Franklin Community Middle School for $50,000. Asphalt crack seal and striping at Creekside Northwood CBIS Middle School and High School. And that would be between $5,200, which is at Northwood, all the way to $53,000 at the high school for cost. Needham would receive a major overhaul of $125,000 for asphalt pavement and concrete work. And then in addition, we'll have EFS repair at the middle school, bleachers at the soccer complex for $50,000. Note, please, that the athletic department will partner with us if we accept forward with this, because the cost will exceed the $50,000. It'll be actually half and half for bleachers. GPS for buses, transportation for $50,000. Install dehumidifier at Union, interior wall repairs, improve lighting output in the main gym for $35,000, and stripe and seal asphalt at Webb for a total of $380,000 for that. You recall we had the second phase. That was fuel island upgrades, gym floor, stripe and seal, transportation center, high school, and Union. That's if the costs do not exceed in phase one. We'll move down to those. On the document, line items 26 through 33 are items of technology note, and Matt is taking care of those through E-rate as well as some general fund or capital projects dollars that we would free up. And then the remaining items that we listed in November were safe routes to school items, and we're going to propose that we move those down a year or two and look to see what happens with the Meyer and Kroger properties. We're in conversation with the city, as you recall, about some possible options there. And if we would go forward with that, that maybe we look at funding for the safe routes to school infrastructure from that. Additionally, then, if costs would allow for future in 2020, we would defer all the mill and overlay work at Northwood Transportation Center, Middle School, Creekside, and then roof repair and replace at Webb, and then possibly seat belts depending on the law and everything. And those would move down to 2020. So our grand total of priority one would be $1,906,000. Priority two would be $197,500. Priority 2A, which is the safe routes to school, that Mr. Doty's worked to concert with the city, is $260,000. And then priority 3, we are estimating at 2020, $1.644 million. So if all came through with our projected cost, we would be at $2.1 million, which we know that exceeds the GEO bond. I will tell you that we are conservative when we consider these projects. So we do believe we'll be able to do phase 1 and phase 2. Thank you, Maestro, for pulling those up.
What was item 4 again? Or priority 4?
Priority 4 was, in 2020, we are believing we'll need to do mill and overlay work at Northwood Transportation Center, Middle School, keep scrolling down that, Creekside Web, and that would be 1.6 million. For the audience, we'll make this available to you. I think this is available. We could make sure you get this. Thank you. So
Is
we,
there 3 years to spend GEO money, or is it 2?
2.
2? So this would in 16, we'd spend it in 16 and 17, and then we got a big expense coming in 20. Okay.
and I think as you see, I think Mr. Mercer even reported AV continues to move up, which is a huge benefit for both Franklin schools and Franklin community. Over the last 3 years, we're over 10% increase in AV. So if we could project out at 2020, we may have more available room inside the capital projects fund. I know that we'll look at that. It's also possibly we may come back and do another GEO bond, but at that point in time, we'll have actually paid off one. I believe it's in 2018 that we are looking to pay that off. Mr. Mercer.
Not a whole lot to add to what Dr. Clendenning mentioned. I have worked with Lonnie Thurber, and Lonnie's put together all the financials. I think I've shared some of the detail with you. There's actually, not that you would use it, but just in the event that you're interested in knowing, we have the capacity through now to 2023 to actually borrow about $8 million. We could do another 4. I don't anticipate we would need that, but there is room to be able to do that. We looked at a variety of repayment options, from paying it off quickly to stretching it out a little bit. Honestly, there's not just a lot of advantage for us to try to pay this off rapidly, especially since we've got 2 bonds that are going to be paid off. The first one, as Dr. Clendenning indicated, in 18 and another in 20. And so we're probably looking at an 8-year repayment cycle, with the initial payment being just interest only, much like we've done with the others. So either a 6 or 8 year repayment. It appears to be very doable and keep us about in the same arena relative to debt service payment that we have been, which would be somewhere in the $14.5 million per. You may recall we were 15.5 this year until we did the bond refunding, and that dropped us down. Next year we're at 13,604, and then we'll get pretty consistent in the mid 14s for the next several years up through 2022, and then it starts to slide down a little bit. So by doing it this way, we're able to keep it at about that level, and certainly feel like we can handle that.
Mr. Mercer, could you just share the tax rate implication as well, just for the public?
Yeah, the last 2 years, our tax rate's been $1.47. You may recall 3 years ago it was $1.64. I would anticipate that our tax rate in 16 is going to be beneath the $1.47. And so Lonnie has projected how much it would cost relative to tax rate, depending on which option we choose. You're looking at anywhere from a 2 to a 4.5 cent impact to that. So if we drop beneath the $1.47, I still think we're going to be in really attractive shape. You may recall at one point we were at $2.12, so $1.47 is certainly attractive, comparatively speaking.
Okay. And I would add, based on the current assumptions, with an assumed assessed value of $1.3 billion, I believe, it is assumed that there will be no impact or no increase on the debt service fund tax rate above the 2015 rate. That is the assumption. And I think the maximum anticipated would be, if I'm looking at this right, 6 cents per 100 of assessed value, or not to exceed that amount. Okay. All right, if the board has no questions, then now is the time for the public to offer comments, if any, on the proposed project and its method of funding.
Does the general public have any questions on the project as presented or on the funding? All right, hearing none, then we move forward, if we wish, with the resolution.
Yes, sir. The first resolution would be to adopt the project resolution, which is in your packet as Exhibit A.
All right, it's been moved to approve the board resolution to adopt the project. Exhibit A, was it in our packet?
Yes, sir.
Exhibit A in our packet. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So then the next item would be a preliminary bond resolution.
Yes.
Move for approval.
All right, it's been, motion's been made to approve the preliminary bond resolution. Any questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So do we need to do anything to set this up for an additional appropriation hearing in
Well,
January?
you do need to adopt your reimbursement resolution.
Or another resolution?
Yes, that is also in your packet as Exhibit C.
Oh, I'm with
That
you.
authorizes you to reimburse yourself for any costs spent on the project prior to receiving the bond money from the bond proceeds.
All right. Well, I would entertain then a motion for a reimbursement resolution.
I'll move for approval.
It has been so moved. Any comments, questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The affidavit of posting notice is informational only. That goes to the additional appropriation hearing and final hearings that will occur on January 11th. It's simply notifying everyone that there will be some notices posted on some of the school buildings, notifying taxpayers that there will be upcoming hearings, but it doesn't require any action on the part of the board. So that concludes that part of the agenda.
All right, good. Thank you, Roger. All right, so that brings us I guess, Mr. Mercer, the temporary transfer loan, is that,
Yeah, I have.
that's separate, right?
Yes, it is. I have 3 items. The first 2 on the agenda are the ones that I bring to you every 6 months. This allows us, the first one, the temporary transfer loan resolution, allows us to utilize rainy day funds on a temporary basis to move any accounts that might not have yet received reimbursement and therefore are in the negative, to allow us to bring those back at least to 0. And I would ask your approval on that to allow us to take care of those temporary items, and then we'll transfer the money back by January the 31st.
This is something we do every year.
You do it twice a year, correct?
Okay.
I move for approval.
All right, it's been moved for approval. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. You're up again, Mr. Mercer.
The second one is a resolution ordinance to transfer appropriations. As you're aware, at the end of every year, there's some transferring that has to be done. You may recall that big packet that we have for you in January to take a look at. At any rate, it's moving dollars around within the various funds so that we don't end up in a negative balance situation. So we're asking your permission to allow us to do that once again this year.
Move for approval.
It's been moved for approval. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. The third and final one is not one that we do all the time, really emanated from a refund we received from Indiana American Water, which originally emanated from the building of this high school, and we received $44,000. In consultation with Mr. Mashmeyer, we've widened that out just a little bit. We did talk with the State Board of Accounts, and their suggestion to us, since we really didn't know where the money should be placed, their suggestion was to place it in the general fund and then at the end of the year, move it to rainy day. And so with this resolution, it allows us to transfer funds that have been received unexpectedly, much like the Indiana American Water's money was received. And then we'll move it from a general fund into rainy day which we felt like was a good resolution anyway, but the State Board of Accounts validated that for us. So we're asking your permission to be able to move those dollars from general fund to rainy day at the end of the year.
Move for approval.
All right, it's been moved for approval. All those in favor, or well, is there any comments or questions?
This also impacts the overage from the RDC, or the money, the
Yes, it
TIF.
certainly could,
The
yes.
TIF money, if you recall, we are due to receive in this
And
installment.
according to what they've told me, Mr. Young may know differently, but they intend to distribute that to us in December with our regular tax draw. So since we've not received that before, it certainly could be handled the very same way. And that's, I think, a good reason why you expand this out a little bit in the event that this happens.
All right, all right. All those in favor of the motion signify by sign of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion items. Public relations.
Well, over the last 7 years, we've talked a lot about sharing our story and moving forward. We have a hidden gem in our teachers and all the great things that they do inside their classrooms, as well as the many outstanding things that happen beyond a classroom. We have been working with Mrs. Betts, and she serves as the communication specialist for a portion of her HR job. So she spends about 4.5 days doing HR and another half if HR doesn't intercede, and unfortunately it does intercede a lot. And so we were looking at what are ways that we can move forward with our communication, sharing our story. I feel like it's a perfect time with the announcement of JMH. And if you go back to the contract, they're awarding us $200,000 this year to offset some of the costs. And so we felt like it would be appropriate to use those funds in a way to continue to move us forward. So I would like to take a portion of those proceeds and move forward with a full-time community and public relations specialist. On the attachment, if Mr. Sproul could pull that up. We've looked at a lot of schools and what they're doing. We've looked at the Indiana Public Relations Association as well as the National Public Relations Association to gather the best ideas. And so you will see the essential functions of this job and what we're looking to do. And those were the benchmarks that Mrs. Ott spoke of when she talked about the Communications Committee. But we're looking at communication, both internal and external publics, as well as media relations, continuing to bring that to the forefront. Also looking at communications and crisis events, public relations research, survey, polls, and informal searches. Public Relations Council, provide Public Relations Council taking proactive stance, anticipating problems. So this person would be out in front and center and sharing our story. School district imaging and marketing, they would be the person that would make sure our websites are up to date, our literature that we have out there, as well as bring new ideas. Help with staff and student recognition. One of the things that takes place in the next couple of months, I'll just highlight, we give Teacher of the Year. This year, our Teacher of the Year is Beth Foraker. Well, once they receive their building nomination, it is probably a 20-hour job to get ready for the state level. One of the things that this person is going to do is actually do a lot of that legwork for this person from now on, so that we can move forward to really promote our teachers, because there is an art and science once they get beyond our selection, how they get promoted. And I think this person could help us move forward. We have great teachers. Beth just exemplifies that, and she represents so many of our teachers. And she made the semifinals this year, and I do believe she would have been worthy of the Teacher of the Year. Also, information for the district. She'll be the point person on contacts, public relations training for both staff, community, and then also serve as community relations liaison. This person would reach out and continue to work with the city and different things we're doing. Minimum requirements would be high school diploma, but I will tell you, we're looking for a person that has a 4-year degree in journalism and marketing to move forward with this position. But this time it's a discussion item, and then we would be bringing back, my thought would be in January for action and then moving forward.
Curious why you would say that the minimum requirement is high school diploma when you in fact really are going to hire and want to hire college degree. Just curious.
You know, I think this, in looking at some of the other templates, this is what they had on there. But I will tell you that you're going to have your bachelor's to be considered. And that's one change we can make. That's why it's right before you today. So I would agree with you, Mr. Thompson.
So who does these things now?
Mrs. Betts does some, and then each building, like Mrs. Betts is our webmaster. Each building has a web point person, and really probably an admin assistant is in charge of press release. Our building principal will do some of the Twitter stuff. Communication kind of helps a big picture, but we're just looking to be more streamlined and really share our story. If we were looking at enrollment and opportunities, we have a great story to tell and continue to get people to come here. You saw the Daily Journal article today with Mr. Hummel. I didn't see it, but I was told that it was a great article. We would ask this person to really continue to promote that, get that out and about. So that's what we'll be doing. But specifically, Mrs. Betts, a portion of her job right now.
So the HR role that is there, what is the follow-up plan for that role?
That person would, I will tell you, with all of the Affordable Care Act, all of the things that are required with regard to documentation on internal controls, they will have a major job. And that's really what's happened. If you look at this year, 2015 first semester, I would say that most days Robin spends 5 days a week in dealing with that.
So, so you would plan on backfilling?
Yeah, we would have that person do full-time HR.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the things that you're going to hear is, we did our State Board of Accounts review. Internal controls were highlighted to Mr. Mercer and myself often. And that's one of the things where we need to continue to focus on. So HR needs to be able to do that and not have a diffusion of responsibilities.
One of the requirements from the State Board of Accounts, it's really not just Franklin, it's every school district in the state. They want two sets of eyes on everything. And in a relatively small shop, that's hard to do. Although Robin and Chris have suffered through the same types of things in HR as well. And it's going to be an ongoing challenge, and one that we've got to think about strategically, just in being able to manage the types of things that are happening. I can't tell you from 7 years ago when I started, the volume of reporting that's now transpired as compared to where we used to be with exactly the same number of people employed. It's, honest to goodness, staggering.
I think what I would like to see and think about is where we are today and what measures. We do a really good job of putting things into place, but not necessarily go back and evaluate how it's doing. That would be my ask, is to think about now what kind of measures that we can go, whether it's X months down the road or whatever it is, so that we can have some kind of baseline and where we're going and measure. And if we need to tweak, then we need to tweak or whatever. But that would be my ask.
And that will be a part of the final recommendation coming forward, and that you'll see that in January. But I would agree, we need to be able to evaluate this need. I mean, it's something that it's going to cost our district. I'm looking at the JMH dollars to offset that, but there's a small portion. Obviously, it's not the whole thing. There's still, but we will have a way to anchor and measure it.
Right on that same point, you see, it seems like a PR, let me back up. I'm on board with Darren's statement that we want to be the provider of choice. I'm completely bought into that, and I agree with that. And if the purpose of this is to bring better staff, better administrators, better students, more students, increased numbers, this position will pay for itself. Because I have a hard time paying for this position just to puff ourselves up. I have a hard time justifying that, to pat ourselves on the back with press releases. That's not what I see this position as. I see this position as it is actually dropping it should pay for itself. And so along with Brian's saying, I think if that's part of the way we measure this position, I don't know how you quantify that. It's very hard to do, but we should at least have anecdotal evidence.
We actually have some bench work marks that we're already looking at to be able to quantify that both on the qualitative, but also on the quantitative side. And we've already been thinking about that, and we would agree. It is about getting kids here. You know what? Come to our school. It's a great place to learn. And yes, we do many things. We want people to know about it, but we do want to get great teachers. We have great teachers, but why not? We need to have more. Same with administrators. So all those things that you mentioned are what we're talking behind the scenes as well. And that's why we talked about the benchmarks, but the communication committee, they were able to, I don't know, did they see the National Public Relations document?
We pulled it up and it's
Yep.
very large.
Yep. So, and I can send that out to you. They looked at, it's a book actually. So those things we're looking at. Bill, we agree with you. I agree with you.
So I think that we're really talking about what is the criteria for success, and it's both qualitative and quantitative. But I think the perfect example is we got some great press by the Journal with Mr. Hummel, and I don't know what the Journal's readership is, but obviously it's going to a fairly small geographical area, and obviously I hope your intent is that to leverage the fact that we're going to have of course we're making an announcement here, but it's already in the paper, but to have the Music Educator of the Year needs to go beyond the walls of Johnson County readership, as well as Teacher of the Year in Science, etc. So I assume that's the direction you're going.
Mm-hmm.
That part of that qualitative measure of success is, as you've alluded to, it's student body count and better hires, better talent, etc. So,
It affects the city too. I mean, potential for new businesses coming in Franklin, that sort of thing. Does Franklin, I mean, do they have this type of position also?
They have Angie probably be their
She's their director.
their person. They would be their point person. Angie Long, that person. And we'll continue to work closely. Robin right now sits on Discover Downtown, for example, and making those connections. But it will be a part of the city. Right now when we have business leaders come into the area, we do get a chance to have a conversation with them. It'll be the intent that this position will make that more robust. Because right now, we receive a couple weeks notice or whatever, and then we move forward with that. But it will be a requirement for this person to continue to move that.
So with this person as well, work with, for example, the athletics or the performing arts and work on their communication and outreach as
Yes.
well. So that, I can't speak that much for the athletics. I'm not close to it, but for the performing arts side, certainly they, part of that is the growth, right? And so, but there's a limit to their, knowledge or, time to be able to put together a communication plan specifically for the performing arts. So would this person work with that group to come up with a plan for them? Okay.
Yes, they will.
I don't know why I'm losing my voice. Sorry.
They'll definitely do that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that brings us to some new courses at the high school.
2 new courses the high school would like to add to their course description book for next school year. One is an advanced composition class that really falls along the lines of college and career readiness. And then the second one is an engineering design and development class, which would be the second year class of engineering taught by Mr. Rose. Both of those course descriptions are taken straight from the Department of Ed's course description book. So I'm just bringing you those tonight, and we'll bring them back next month and ask for approval.
I have one question. On the engineering class, it says, the recommended grade level is grade 12. Well, my son's a freshman taking, he could go on next year. taking
Yeah,
that.
we could change that. I
We're gonna
think that
tweak a little
should
bit.
read the prerequisite would be the
Okay.
first engineering
Thank you.
class.
I just,
Yeah.
I thought it would be good.
Well, I need to offer a counter opinion on that. Part of engineering is really understanding the applied principles of mathematics and science. And without some of that knowledge that a sophomore is not going to have, now, obviously, I don't have any idea what the real course is like, but I would counsel you to have a deeper conversation with Eric about, and the science department and math department, about how the principles of mathematics and science integrate into this course. Not to say that a sophomore can't get there, but he's got a limited understanding of deeper applications in science. And so I would just ask that you have the conversation relative to that topic. Because they go hand in hand, and you got to have a deeper understanding of science. And if someone hasn't had chemistry and physics relative to what this is, it's going to be limited in terms of what they're really going to be able to learn and understand relative to engineering.
I think it's one of the other things we can also make that one of the requirements or requisites is that they have chemistry and physics class and/or that's one thing we could do as well. We'll have that conversation.
Yeah, I think I'd just ask you to have the
Yeah.
conversation. Whatever answer you come up with, I'm going to be okay with, providing you have the conversation. So, as the only resident engineer up here, I might know a little bit, but not very much.
Yeah.
The advanced comp, is that an AP class?
It is not.
Do we have a composition AP class?
AP Comp, yes.
So this is for the student that needs some more help to prepare them for college composition.
Correct. That, and I think it's also for the student that might be entering a more technical field as well. If you look at the course description, it talks about being able to fill out applications and creating resumes, using visual arts to prepare graphs and tables. So more of a technical English class, and it does count as an academic honors in Core 40 with the technical honors diploma.
Okay.
And just a reminder, we have dual credit as well, which is not AP, and that's Mrs. Kirby's 131 class, which is the IU entry composition class. I think you're probably most familiar with. And then Mrs. Hart teaches AP Lang and AP Lit that would correspond to that. So
Okay.
I think the high school felt like this would be a better option for those kids maybe not going directly into college, but going into a technical class. It would be a more appropriate option than some of the other electives that maybe we've offered in the past.
Okay. Right. So, all right, order administrative comments.
just have one, couple comments. One about the Performing Arts Centers. Last month, we hosted our two new opportunities. We had the Willis Clan as well as the Glenn Miller Orchestra. We had approximately over 530 at Willis Clan. I will tell you, the Willis Clan said that we were the best facility that they performed in. And they're actually looking at coming back to do a video using our backdrop. So I want to let you know that. Glenn Miller Orchestra, I'll have to say it was not as, it didn't have 500, but man, it was a great concert. It was a fun evening that kind of helped kick off. I know Doug is going to work with the art craft and some of those. We'll look at some partnerships that we talked about in that communication area. But I think very successful in highlighting the Performing Arts Center. And just want to thank Mr. Corliss taking a risk there, but it was a good thing. I did attend both concerts, and it was fun. Got there a little late for the Willis Clan, but the rest of it was still good.
Okay. All right. Calendar, I guess there's some comments here on the calendar, Christmas break.
Just a reminder, finals begin Wednesday here at the high school, middle school, and then Friday we are out through January the 5th. So just wanted to highlight that for everybody to make sure that we're aware of that. As far as the office, we will be open both weeks except for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
All right, good. Any public comments on items that were not on the agenda?
I wasn't quite fast enough for the administrative comments. I need to get a little quicker. One of the things that is going to happen for the next board meeting is Google is going to come visit Franklin in a unique way. Sarah Records at Creekside has been chosen by Google to come, and they're going to display Google Expedition. I won't get into it a whole lot, but if you've heard of virtual classroom, it is going to allow students to put hold of their, Google calls it cardboard, but basically goggles, where students are going to be able to look around on the bottom of the floor of the ocean. They're going to be able to go to Mars. I'd encourage you to look at it. We'll definitely report back out that I think it's an exciting opportunity for Creekside, Franklin Community Schools, and that we want to appreciate Sarah Records for applying for it.
And Whitney McCarthy also received.
Did she receive the email?
Yes.
I know. Okay, very good.
Yep. So we have two teachers.
Good. All right, thank you. Well, hearing no other comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.
Okay, 50 minutes.